Hello there, my sleepy nights. Tonight, we step into a world shaped by ancient gods and broken oaths. In this God of War collection, we travel across the 9 realms, meeting monsters, myths, and memories that refuse to stay buried. And if you enjoy this collection, please give us a like, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment below. You can also support us on our Patreon, where you get access to our Spotify playlist and early access to all of these stories. But for now, let's get cozy and journey into the frost-bitten lands of God of War. The ancient forest of Midgard loomed silent and foreboding, its gnarled pines stretching towards a sky heavy with unshed snow. Through this primeval landscape trudged an unlikely pair, a man mountain of muscle and scars, and a boy barely into his teens. The silence between them was broken only by the crunch of frost beneath their feet and the occasional rustle of wind through bare branches. Kratos, once known as the Ghost of Sparta, now sought only peace in these Norse realms. Yet, the weight of his past hung heavy on him, visible in the wary glances he cast at every shadow and the perpetual furrow on his brow. His massive hand rested on the handle of his axe, ready for any threat that might emerge from the wilderness. Beside him, Atreus moved with a quiet grace that belied his youth. His eyes, keen and curious, darted from tree to tree, tracking subtle signs of their quarry. A bow was slung across his back. Determination set his jaw. The hunt was more than a lesson in survival. It was a chance to prove himself to his father. "There," Atreus whispered, pointing to fresh tracks in the frost-rimmed earth. "A stag passed here not long ago." Kratos knelt to examine the trail, his weathered face a mask of concentration. "Well spotted," he rumbled, his voice like gravel. "You're learning." A rare smile flickered across Atreus' face at the praise, but it quickly faded as he refocused on the task at hand. They pressed on, following the stag's trail deeper into the forest, deeper than they had ever ventured before. The trees here were older, their bark etched with strange ruins that seemed to glow faintly in the dim light. "Father," Atreus whispered, a shiver running down his spine. These markings, what do they mean? Kratos eyed the ruins warily. Nothing good. We take the stag and leave. Quickly. But as they rounded a massive oak, the forest fell away, revealing a small clearing bathed in an unnatural light. At its center stood their quarry, a magnificent stag with antlers that shimmered like starlight. Yet, something was off. The creature's eyes glowed with an otherworldly intelligence, and the air around it wavered like heat rising from summer stones. Father, Atreus breathed, notching an arrow. The stag, it's... Before he could finish, the stag let out a haunting cry. The sound reverberated through the trees, causing the very air to vibrate. The creature staggered, its form blurring at the edges like a painting left in the rain. Stay back, Kratos barked, pushing Atreus behind him and raising his axe. The stag's form began to twist and stretch, its antlers melting into the air like smoke. A blinding light erupted from within, forcing both Kratos and Atreus to shield their eyes. When they looked again, where the beast had stood, now lay a young girl with eyes that held the wisdom of the ages. Kratos of Sparta, she gasped. Atreus, son of two realms. I am Angrboda. I came to warn you. Kratos growled, keeping Atreus shielded. Warn us of what? Angrboda struggled to sit up, her form still shimmering with residual magic. Odin, the All-Father, he senses a shift in fate. He seeks its source. She paused, catching her breath. His ravens search the land. Thor and Balder prepare for the hunt. You are not safe here any longer. Atreus looked up to his father. Father? Odin? Why would he look for us? As if in answer, a distant call echoed through the trees. A raven's call. Kratos' head snapped up, his entire body tensing. The peaceful life he had sought for his son now teetered on the edge of chaos. the raven's cry faded, leaving an uneasy silence. Kratos scanned the canopy, his hand tightening on his axe. "We leave. Now," he growled, reaching for Atreus. "Please," Angrboda said, her voice steady despite her weakened state. "You must understand what you face." Kratos paused. "Speak plainly. Why does Odin seek us?" "Not you, Ghost of Sparta. Your son." Her gaze fixed on Atreus. The boy stiffened, but remained silent, watching his father. "The prophecy speaks of a child born of two realms," Angrboda continued. "One with the power to alter Ragnarok itself. Odin believes that child is Atreus." Kratos' expression darkened. "Prophecies are tools of manipulation. Nothing more." "Perhaps," Angrboda conceded. "But Odin's belief makes them dangerous all the same. He will not rest until he has Atreus under his control." Atreus looked up at Kratos, questions burning in his eyes. But he held his tongue. Angrboda pressed on. "There is a place where we can shield Atreus from Odin's sight. The Temple of Fate, deep in the wild woods. Its magic can conceal him, but we must reach it before Thor and Balder find us." Kratos stood motionless, weighing their options. Then, with a barely perceptible nod, he turned to Angrboda. "This temple, how far?" "A day's journey, if we're swift and lucky," she replied. "Then we go," Kratos decided. "But know this. Any sign of treachery, and our alliance ends." Angrboda nodded solemnly. "Understood." As they prepared to leave, a distant rumble of thunder rolled across the sky. Atreus glanced at his father, a mixture of apprehension and determination in his eyes. Kratos met his gaze, allowing a rare moment of uncertainty to show. "Stay close, boy," he said. "Whatever comes, we face it together." With that, they set off into the deepening shadows of the forest, leaving behind the simplicity of their old life and stepping into a world far larger and more dangerous than Atreus had ever imagined. The trio moved swiftly through the forest, Angerboda leading the way with an otherworldly grace. Kratos kept Atreus close, his senses alert for any sign of danger. The boy's eyes darted from tree to tree, taking in the changing landscape as they ventured deeper into unknown territory. As dusk approached, they entered a mist-shrouded grove. Ancient stones, covered in moss and ruins, stood in irregular patterns around them. Angerboda slowed her pace. We must be cautious here. This place is old, and death lingers. No sooner had the words left her mouth than a bone-chilling howl pierced the air. From the mist emerged grotesque figures. Draugr, the undead warriors of Norse legend. Their flesh hung in rotting tatters, eyes glowing with an unholy blue fire. Kratos pushed Atreus behind him, raising his axe. Stay back, boy. The first wave of Draugr crashed against Kratos like a tide of decay. His axe cleaved through rotting flesh and ancient armor with equal ease, each swing precise and devastating. But for every Draugr that fell, two more seemed to rise from the mist. Atreus, bow in hand, loosed arrow after arrow into the horde. Each shot found its mark, but the Draugr pressed on, heedless of the arrows protruding from their bodies. Father, Atreus called out, my arrows, they're not stopping them. As Kratos turned to respond, a Draugr broke through his defense, its rusted blade slicing across his arm. The god of war roared in pain and anger, unleashing a devastating counterattack that sent nearby enemies flying. In that moment of chaos, something changed in Atreus. A surge of energy coursed through him, different from anything he'd felt before. Without thinking, he nocked another arrow. But as he drew back the string, he felt the power coalesce around the arrowhead. Get down, he shouted, releasing the arrow. The projectile streaked through the air, trailing blue-white energy. When it struck the lead Draugr, it exploded in a burst of lightning. In seconds, a dozen Draugr lay motionless on the ground, wisps of smoke rising from their charred remains. Silence fell over the grove. Kratos turned to his son, eyes wide in surprise. Atreus stood frozen, staring at his hands in disbelief. "Boy," Kratos said, "are you hurt?" Atreus shook his head, still processing. "Father, I don't know how I did that." Angerboda's urgent whisper cut through the moment. "We must move. Now. That display of power will have drawn attention we cannot afford." As if to confirm her words, a cold wind swept through the grove, carrying with it a voice that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. "Well, well," it said, "what have we here? A family outing?" From the mist stepped a figure, a man of average height, but with an aura of immense power. "Balder," Angerboda breathed, fear evident in her voice. Kratos pushed Atreus behind him, raising his axe. "Leave. This does not concern you." Balder's laugh was like shattering ice. "Oh, but it does, Ghost of Sparta. The Allfather is very interested in your little family, especially the boy." His gaze fixed on Atreus. "You will not touch him," Kratos growled, tensing for battle. Balder's smile widened. "I don't need to. I just needed to confirm what Odin suspected." And now, he spread his arms wide. "Now the hunt truly begins." With impossible speed, Balder lunged forward. Kratos met him head-on. Their clash, sending shock waves through the grove. Trees splintered, and stones cracked as god battled god. "Run," Kratos shouted to Atreus and Angerboda. "Run. I'll find you." Atreus hesitated, torn between obedience and the desire to help his father. But Angerboda grabbed his arm, pulling him away. "We must go," she insisted. "Your father can handle himself." As they fled, the sounds of battle faded behind them. Atreus' mind raced with questions, fears, and a growing sense that nothing might ever be the same again. The journey to the Temple of Fate had only just begun, and already the weight of destiny pressed heavily upon his young shoulders. Atreus and Angerboda crested a hill, their bodies weary from the journey and the recent escape from Boulder. Before them sprawled the Temple of Fate. Ancient stone pillars rose into the mist, their surfaces etched with runes that pulsed with an eerie light. And a sense of timelessness hung over the place, as if it existed slightly out of step with the world around it. Atreus' eyes widened. "It's incredible," he breathed, momentarily forgetting his worry for his father. Angerboda nodded, but her expression remained grim. "And heavily guarded," she said, pointing to shadowy figures patrolling the temple grounds. "Those are Odin's Einherjar, aren't they?" Atreus asked. "The chosen dead." "Yes," Angerboda confirmed. "They won't let us pass easily." Atreus' hand moved to his bow, but Angerboda stopped him. "Wait," she said, her voice low. "Look closer at the temple itself." As they observed, they saw intricate patterns of energy flowing across the temple's surface, forming barriers and webs of magic. What is that?" Atreus asked. "The temple's defenses," Angerboda explained. "Ancient and complex. Without the proper knowledge to navigate them, we risk triggering traps, or worse, alerting Odin to our presence." Atreus felt a wave of despair. "But I thought this place was supposed to protect us. How can we use it if we can't even enter?" Angerboda was silent for a moment. Finally, she spoke. "There is one who could help us. One who knows the secrets of the temple and how to bypass its defenses safely." "Who?" Atreus asked, a flicker of hope in his voice. Mimir, Angerboda said, the wisest being in all the 9 realms. Once Odin's most trusted advisor, now a prisoner. Atreus' eyes lit up. Mimir. I've heard stories about him, but I thought he was just a legend. Oh, he's real enough, Angerboda replied. And if anyone can get us safely into the temple and help us use its protection, it's him. Where is he? Atreus asked. Angerboda pointed to a distant mountain peak, shrouded in storm clouds. There, Odin keeps him in prison at the highest point. Atreus studied the mountain. It looks dangerous. It is, Angerboda confirmed. The path is treacherous, and Odin's forces will no doubt be watching. But it's our only chance. Atreus was quiet for a moment, thinking of his father-facing boulder, of the power he'd felt coursing through him during the Draugr attack. Finally, he nodded. Then that's where we need to go. Father will find us. He always does. And when he does, we need to be ready with a way into the temple. Angerboda smiled, a hint of pride in her eyes. You're braver than you know, young one. As they prepared to leave their vantage point, Atreus cast one last look at the Temple of Fate. So close, yet still out of reach. He felt the weight of their new quest settling onto his shoulders, understanding that each step brought him closer to confronting truths about himself that he wasn't sure he was ready to face. With a deep breath, he turned away from the temple and followed Angerboda towards the distant peak. The journey to free Mimir, to unlock the secrets of his own destiny, had begun. Atreus and Angerboda set off towards the looming mountain. Its peak shrouded in unnatural storm clouds. As they climbed, the landscape around them began to twist and change, warped by Odin's influence. The forest gave way to gnarled black trees with leaves that whispered dark secrets. The ground beneath their feet shifted treacherously, forcing them to watch every step. In the distance, spectral wolves howled, their cries echoing unnaturally. Odin's magic grows stronger here, Angerboda warned, her voice tight with tension. Stay alert. They picked their way across a field of sharp, obsidian-like rocks that seemed to move when not directly observed. Atreus yelped as one sliced his hand, a thin line of blood welling up. Are you all right? Angerboda asked, concern in her voice. Atreus nodded, wrapping a strip of cloth around his palm. I'm fine. We need to keep moving. And as they neared the base of the mountain, a river blocked their path, its waters black and churning with malevolent energy. We can't cross that, Angerboda said, frustration evident. The waters would tear us apart. Atreus stared at the river, feeling a familiar energy building within him. Without fully understanding why, he raised his hand towards the water. Blue-white light crackled around his fingers, and suddenly a path of ice began to form across the river's surface. Angerboda's eyes widened. Atreus, how are you doing that? I don't know, he said through gritted teeth, sweat beading on his brow. But I can't hold it for long. They raced across the ice bridge, the black waters roaring beneath them. Just as they reached the other side, Atreus' power faltered. The ice shattered, melting back into the river's dark embrace. Atreus stumbled, drained by the effort. Angerboda steadied him, her expression of awe and concern. Your power grows, young one, but be careful. Such magic always comes with a price. As they began their ascent up the mountain proper, the air grew thin and bitterly cold. Harsh winds buffeted them, carrying stinging shards of ice. Atreus pulled his furs tighter, his breath coming in ragged gasps. Suddenly, the ground beneath them shook. A deafening crack split the air as an avalanche of snow and rock cascaded down the mountainside towards them. Angerboda grabbed Atreus, pulling him towards an outcropping. We'll never outrun it. In that moment of panic, Atreus felt the power surge within him again, stronger than ever before. With the cry that was half fear, half exhilaration, he thrust both hands towards the oncoming avalanche. A shock wave of energy erupted from his palms, blue, white, and crackling with lightning. It slammed into the avalanche, vaporizing snow and shattering boulders. For a moment, it seemed as if Atreus had stopped the mountain itself. But then, the backlash hit. Atreus screamed as the power turned inward, searing through his veins like liquid fire. He collapsed, his vision blurring. Angerboda's voice seemed to come from far away. Atreus, stay with me. As consciousness slipped away, Atreus thought he heard a familiar roar of rage. Then, darkness took him. Atreus awoke to the sound of battle. His eyes snapped open to see his father, Kratos, standing over him protectively, axe in hand. Around them lay the broken bodies of Odin's Einjar. Father, Atreus croaked, struggling to sit up. You found us. Kratos knelt beside him, concern breaking through his usual stoic expression. Rest, boy. You've overexerted yourself. Angerboda approached. We're close to Mimir's prison, but more guards will come. Kratos nodded grimly. Then we move quickly. With Atreus leaning on his father for support, they made their way to the summit. There, chained to an ancient tree that seemed to grow from the very rock, was a severed head. Despite his condition, Atreus couldn't help but stare. The head's eyes were closed, its face lined with age and wisdom. Ruins of binding glowed on the chains that held it in place. Mimir, Angerboda breathed. The wisest of the 9 realms. As if in response to his name, the head's eyes snapped open, filled with intelligence and a hint of mischief. Well, well, Mimir said, his voice surprisingly cheerful for a disembodied head. Visitors at last, and what an odd trio you make. Kratos stepped forward, axe raised. We seek your knowledge. Speak quickly. Mimir chuckled. Ah, yes. Ever the diplomat, Kratos. And you? His gaze shifted to Atreus. You must be the one Odin's been in such a tizzy about. Atreus straightened, trying to hide his weakness. Can you help us? We need to enter the Temple of Fate. Oh, straight to the point. Like your father. I like that, Mimir said. But first a trade. My freedom for my knowledge. These chains are rather uncomfortable, you see. Angerboda stepped forward. We accept. With a mighty swing of his axe, Kratos shattered the chains binding Mimir. The head fell, but Angerboda caught it gently. Much obliged, Mimir said. Now then, about that temple. It's not just a place of protection, lad. It's a nexus of fate itself. And you, with your unique heritage, have the power to reshape those fates. Atreus's eyes widened. What do you mean? Mimir's expression grew serious. You stand at a crossroads, boy. Your actions in the temple could prevent Ragnarok or hasten its arrival. The choice will be yours. As those words settled over him, a distant roar echoed across the mountain. Thor's voice filled with godly rage. Time to go, I think, Mimir said cheerfully. I do hope you're ready for a run. The descent from Mimir's prison was a chaotic blur. Thor's booming voice echoed across the mountain, punctuated by the crack of lightning. Kratos led the way, Atreus close behind, with Angerboda carrying Mimir's head. Left, Mimir shouted, as a bolt of lightning obliterated the path ahead. They veered, sliding down a treacherous scree slope. Atreus's heart pounded. Fear and exhilaration mingling in his veins. He could feel his power thrumming beneath his skin, but the memory of his earlier collapse kept him from tapping into it. As they neared the base of the mountain, Odin's forces materialized from the mists, their spectral forms flickering with unholy light blocked their path. Kratos didn't break his stride. His axe sang through the air, cleaving through the undead warriors. Atreus loosed arrows with deadly precision, each shot finding its mark. "The lad's not too bad with that bow," Mimir observed, seemingly unfazed by the chaos around him. They broke through the lines, the Temple of Fate looming before them. But between them and safely stood Thor, the god of thunder himself. His massive frame crackled with electricity. "Kratos," Thor's voice boomed across the battlefield. "Return the boy and the head, and I might grant you a quick death." Kratos pushed Atreus behind him. "Go," he growled. "Get to the temple. I'll hold him off." Angerboda grabbed Atreus' arm, pulling him towards the temple as Kratos engaged Thor. The clash of their weapons sent shock waves across the land. As they reached the temple steps, Atreus hesitated, looking back at his father locked in combat with Thor. "Focus, lad," Mimir urged. "Your father can handle himself. I'll work some magic to get us inside." Atreus nodded, turning to the temple entrance. Intricate ruins glowed with dangerous energy, forming a barrier. "Now, repeat after me," Mimir instructed. He began to chant in an ancient tongue, words that seemed to twist reality itself. Atreus echoed the chant, feeling the power build within him. The ruins on the temple pulsed in response, slowly aligning into new patterns. Behind them, the battle raged on. Thor's lightning split the sky, answered by Kratos' earth-shaking blows. "Almost there," Mimir encouraged. "One last push." Atreus spoke the final word of the incantation. The temple ruins flared brilliantly, then faded. The barrier dissolved. "It's done," Angerboda cried. Quickly, inside. They rushed through the entrance, Atreus casting one last glance back at his father. Kratos met his gaze for a moment, nodding slightly before turning back to face Thor's onslaught. Inside the Temple of Fate, time seemed to stand still. Ancient mechanisms whirred to life around them, responding to their presence. The heart of the temple, Mimir directed. We need to reach it to activate the full protection. They navigated through winding corridors, each step revealing new wonders and dangers. Finally, they reached the central chamber. A massive tree grew here, its branches stretching impossibly upward, its roots delving deep into the earth. This was Yggdrasil, the world tree, or at least a manifestation of it. "Now, lad," Mimir said, his voice uncharacteristically serious. "This is where your true power comes into play. You must connect with Yggdrasil, become one with the flows of fate." Atreus approached the tree, his hand outstretched. As his fingers brushed the bark, visions flooded his mind. He saw countless possible futures, branching out like limbs of Yggdrasil itself. "Focus on protection," Angerboda urged. "Shield us from Odin's sight." Gritting his teeth, Atreus concentrated. He felt the power of the temple responding to his will, weaving magic around them. Suddenly, a shudder ran through the temple. Thor's voice, distant but filled with rage. "Hurry, boy," Mimir shouted. With a final push of will, Atreus completed the protection spell. A wave of energy pulsed outward from the tree, enveloping the entire temple. The sounds of battle outside ceased abruptly. For a moment, all was silent. Kratos burst into the chamber, battered but unbowed. "It's done," he demanded. Atreus nodded, exhausted but triumphant. "We're safe. Others can't see us for the moment." Mimir chuckled. "Well done, lad. But I'm afraid this journey is far from over." "What do you mean?" Angerboda asked. "The temple's protection is powerful, but not permanent," Mimir explained. "And young Atreus here has set something in motion that can't be undone. The threads of fate are shifting, and Odin will stop at nothing to control them." As the others discussed their next move, Kratos pulled Atreus aside. For a long moment, father and son stood in silence. The journey they had been through, hanging between them. Finally, Kratos spoke, his voice gruff, tinged with pride. "You did well, boy." Atreus smiled, feeling a warmth in his chest at his father's rare praise. I couldn't have done it without you, Father." Kratos placed a hand on Atreus' shoulder. "Odin and his forces will not rest. Are you prepared for what comes next?" Atreus thought of the power he'd felt, the visions of possible futures. He thought of his mother's stories, of the legacy he was only beginning to understand. Finally, he nodded. "I'm ready, Father." "Good," Kratos said. "We have a long journey." They turned back to the others. Mimir was already outlining their next steps, speaking of hidden paths between realms and ancient weapons that could turn the tide against Odin. As Atreus listened, he felt excitement, trepidation. The Temple of Fate had provided them a moment of safety, but it was just the beginning. Their true quest to understand Atreus' powers, to challenge the rule of gods. Perhaps to reshape the fate of all the realms. It was only just beginning. And with his father by his side, and new allies at their back, Atreus stepped forward, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The storm came first, not the gentle drift of winter snow, but razor shards of ice that cut through the evening sky like broken glass. Kratos watched them gather, his weathered hands tightening on the shaft of his axe as the clouds above twisted into an unnatural spiral. The hunt could wait. Golden light burst through the maelstrom. A Valkyrie, her wings catching the dying sun, she arced through the tempest. Behind her, 3 others followed, their armor the cold blue of a frozen corpse. Their weapons left trails of frost in the air as they pursued their sister, their once proud battle cries transformed into something mechanical and hollow. The golden Valkyrie banked hard, her wing catching on an ice spear. The shaft shattered, but the damage was done. She spiraled downward, trying to right herself as her attackers pressed their advantage. A second spear found her remaining wing. She plummeted, cratering the snow-covered earth, mere steps from where Kratos stood. He had vowed to stay clear of divine affairs, to let the gods destroy themselves if they wished. But as he turned to leave, her broken wings twitching in the blood-stained snow, she spoke. "The children," she gasped. Golden armor cracked and leaking light. "They're taking the children first." Kratos stopped. Above them, the corrupted Valkyrie circled once, then retreated toward Asgard, their duty seemingly complete. The wounded Valkyrie reached toward him with a trembling hand, ice already forming around the edges of her wounds. "I am secret," she whispered, "and I have seen what comes for us all." The storm intensified, but Kratos remained, studying her face. There was something there, not the arrogance he'd hoped to expect from divine beings, but a desperate sort of hope. Blood and light seeped from her injuries, turning the snow beneath her into a kaleidoscope of gold and crimson. "Please," she said, her voice growing weaker now. "They're freezing them from the inside, turning them to living ice. Our children, our people, even the gods themselves." Kratos felt the weight of his axe, remembering other gods, other promises, other betrayals. But as he watched ice crystals begin to form along the edges of Siegfried's wounds, he saw something else in her eyes. Not manipulation or deceit, but genuine terror. He had seen that look before. With a grunt that was equal parts resignation and frustration, Kratos stepped forward. Valkyrie's eyes widened as he knelt beside her, his massive hands surprisingly gentle as he examined the spread of ice across her golden armor. "Speaking pains you," he said. "Save your strength." He lifted her carefully, mindful of her shattered wings. As he turned toward his cabin, the storm howled around them, and in the distance, a child's scream echoed across the frozen waste, cut suddenly and terribly short. In the dim light of the cabin, Siegfried's feverish words spilled forth like blood from a wound. Through gritted teeth, she told of Odin's discovery, the heart of Ymir, buried in Yggdrasil's deepest roots. Crystalline organ that still beat with the first giant's final moments. Its every pulse a reminder of order's victory over chaos. He touched it first, she gasped. as Kratos worked to slow the spreading ice. We watched our All-Father change. The warmth left his eyes, replaced by purpose. Her voice cracked. He called it clarity, said he finally understood how to end all suffering. Kratos pressed a heated blade against the ice at her wounds, drawing a hiss of pain. Gods always claim noble purpose. This was different. Sigrid's golden eyes fixed on him. He gathered us, his Valkyries, said he would share this gift of perfect logic. Most accepted willingly. Her hand clutched his arm. I saw their humanity freeze, watched them become something else. As if to punctuate her words, another scream pierced the night. Closer this time. The village lay in the valley below, its usual evening fires replaced by an eerie blue glow. Kratos found the streets empty, doors thrown wide. Inside each home, the same scene. Families frozen, ice spreading through their veins like poison. In the village square, he found them. 3 corrupted Valkyries. Their once golden armor, now the color of a frozen lake. Between them, a family knelt. Father, mother, young son. The boy's eyes were already glazing over, his small face becoming a mask of perfect serenity. The gift of clarity, the lead Valkyrie announced, her voice devoid of emotion. No more fear, no more pain, no more imperfect choices. Kratos launched himself forward, Leviathan axe singing through the air. The corrupted Valkyrie caught it on her shield, ice spreading along the blade. Her sisters flanked him, their movements precise, mechanical. The Ghost of Sparta, their leader intoned. Your arrival was predicted. Your interference is illogical. The battle erupted like an ice storm. Kratos fought with all his legendary fury. But these were not enemies fueled by rage or fear. They moved with perfect efficiency, each strike calculated, each defense precise. His axe found purchase in crystalline armor, but the Valkyries seemed unmoved by pain or injury. The father grabbed his son, tried to run. A spear of ice took him through the chest. As he fell, his eyes began to frost over, and a terrible peace settled over his features. Something snapped inside Kratos. Not rage. He had moved beyond simple rage long ago. This was different. This was recognition. He had seen too many children lost to the games of gods. When his axe finally came down, splitting the lead Valkyrie's helm, her face showed no fear, only mild disappointment at the mathematical failure of her strategy. Her sisters retreated skyward, leaving behind a village that would never again know warmth. The boy was still breathing, frost spreading across his chest. His mother, fully transformed, watched with perfect indifference as Kratos lifted him from the snow. This time, there would be no debate about involvement. This time, there would be war. Deep in the ancient Valkyrie temple, gold leaf flaked from crumbling walls as Kratos and Sigrid found the survivors. Only 7 remained of the proud warrior sisterhood. They gathered around a circular pit where sacred flames once burned, now cold as a grave. Odin seeks perfection, said Brynhildr, eldest of the survivors. The heart shows him each imperfect choice that led to suffering, every mercy that bred later tragedy. Her fingers trace patterns in the ashes. He believes he can excise these flaws from creation itself. Sigrid spread a map across the dead fire pit. The heart's power grows with the ice. By winter solstice, it will be strong enough to freeze all 9 realms eternally. Unless we take it, Kratos growled. The Valkyrie stirred at his words, hands tightening on weapons. Steal the heart of Ymir from Odin himself. One warrior laughed bitterly. We might as well ask for his eye. We have no choice. Sigrid's wings, partially healed, rustled in the darkness. Each day, more fall to his gift or clarity. Each day we grow weaker. They planned through the night. The heart was kept in Odin's mountain fortress, guarded by the corrupted Valkyries. They would need to strike before the solstice ritual began. But as dawn approached, Sigrid grew quiet. When the others left to patrol, she remained by the cold pit. There's more, Kratos said, not a question. My brother, she whispered. Tyr. Before Odin found the heart, he was a giant friend, a peacemaker. Her voice caught. He was the first Odin tested it on. The truth spilled out like bitter wine. How Tyr had screamed as the ice took him, his massive form twisting into something monstrous. How Sigrid had stayed her sister's blades, refusing to strike him down. Her mercy earned her exile, while her transformed brother became the heart's guardian. Every night I hear him, she said, still screaming beneath the ice. They infiltrated the fortress under cover of a storm. Thor himself, harboring secret doubts about his father's path, showed them the hidden ways. Through dark corridors they crept, past corrupted gods and frozen warriors standing sentinel. In the heart's chamber, they found Odin waiting, not with rage or madness, but something worse. Perfect certainty. I I watched my peace treaty lead to slaughter, he said, his remaining eye gleaming like ice. My mercy became massacre, my wisdom weakness. The heart pulsed behind him, each beat sending waves of cold through the chamber. But the heart showed me the truth. Every tragedy springs from imperfect choice. Every suffering from flawed feeling. His gaze fell heavy on Kratos. You, of all beings, should understand. How many died for your emotions, your vengeance, your loves and hatreds? The words struck deeper than any blade. For a moment, Kratos saw the logic in them, felt the seductive pull of perfect order. Then, he remembered the boy in the village. Peace replacing pain as his humanity froze. The battle was brief and brutal. They escaped with their warmth, but not the heart. Behind them, Odin's words echoed like breaking ice. Realm by realm, they gathered their army. In Vanaheim, they found druids refusing to surrender their wild magic to Odin's order. In Alfheim, light elves fought against the creeping frost that threatened their eternal summer. Even in Helheim, the dead stirred restlessly as the cold threatened to freeze even the fires of damnation. Each realm showed the heart's growing power differently. Rivers ran backward with perfect geometry. Animals moved in unnaturally synchronized patterns. Children played in silent, ordered rows. Their games reduced to mathematical precision. They call it peace, spat a Vanir warrior. But there is no peace in perfection. Thor met them in secret caves and shadowed valleys, providing intelligence while maintaining his facade of loyalty. Father prepares the ritual, he reported. The solstice comes soon. But for every ally gained, others fell. The ice claimed them in battles and ambushes, and moments of weakness and strength. Kratos watched warriors he'd fought beside transformed, their passion becoming precision. their fury becoming function. They found Tyr in a cave of ice, his giant's form twisted into something barely recognizable. Crystalline growths burst from his flesh, pulsing in time with the distant heart. His eyes, when they found Secret, held a flicker of recognition that was worse than none at all. "Brother," she whispered, reaching toward him. "Fight it, please." His response was a roar that shook loose glaciers. The battle nearly killed them both. Kratos holding back for Secret's sake. Tyr's attacks driven by perfect, emotionless efficiency. They retreated, leaving him to his frozen prison. Secret's tears turning to ice before they hit the ground. "Some bonds even the heart cannot break," she said afterward. "He knew me. Somewhere inside, he still knows me." The betrayal came at dawn. Gna, one of their most trusted Valkyries, had fallen to the heart's influence days ago. She maintained the pretense of warmth while passing their plans to Odin. The attack came as they prepared for their final assault. The corrupted struck with brutal precision. Warriors fell to ice spears before they could reach their weapons. Others transformed where they stood, frost claiming them from within. Half their force was lost in moments. Kratos fought through the chaos, axe blazing with runic fire. He reached Gna as he directed the assault. Her facade of emotion finally dropped. "Your resistance is futile," she stated, parrying his strike. "Accept the perfect order that comes." "There is no glory in perfection," he growled, and took her head. But the damage was done. They retreated to the giant's ancient stronghold, their numbers halved, their plans in ruins. In the distance, the winter solstice approached, with all the inevitability of death itself. In the giant's stronghold, desperation bred boldness. Thor arrived with final intelligence. The ritual would require Odin to channel the heart's full power through Yggdrasil's branches. For one moment, just one, the heart would be vulnerable. A direct assault would be suicide, Brynhildr argued. But Kratos saw the calculations behind her fear. Then we die warm, he said. They divided their remaining forces. The Vanir would attack from the west, drawing the bulk of Odin's army. The Light Elves would strike from above, their summer magic holding the ice at bay. Thor would maintain his deception until the final moment, positioning himself to disable the fortress's ancient wards. Kratos and Sigrid would lead the core assault, a small group targeting the heart itself. One chance, paid for in blood and sacrifice. Dawn broke on the solstice with unnatural stillness. No wind stirred the air as their forces took position. In the distance, Yggdrasil's branches began to crystallize, ice spreading through the world tree like poison through veins. The battle erupted like a breaking glacier. The Vanir struck first, their wild magic clashing against walls of perfect ice. Corrupted Valkyries filled the sky, meeting the Light Elves in aerial combat that painted the clouds with fire and frost. Kratos fought through the chaos, Sigrid at his side. Each corrupted warrior they faced moved with machine precision. But there was power in imperfection, in rage, in desperation, in choice. Thor's betrayal of Odin shook the fortress's foundations. Lightning shattered wards, opening a path to the heart. But the price was immediate. Ice claimed the thunder god, even as his lightning still crackled. His final roar becoming a sigh of perfect clarity. They found Tyr guarding the inner sanctum. The ice had spread further, leaving only his eyes recognizably his own. Sigrid stepped forward before Kratos could stop her. "Brother," she said, spreading her arms wide. "I saved you once with mercy. Let me save you again." The giant's attack was instantaneous, precise, and pulled at the last moment. his fist stopped inches from her heart. Recognition warred with programming. Tears' form shuddered, ice cracking and reforming. Sigrid pressed her hand against his frozen chest, and golden Valkyrie light bloomed between them. No, Kratos realized. The cost. Get to the heart, Sigrid commanded, her light intensifying. I choose this. Ice began spreading up her arms where she touched her brother. Perfect order cannot comprehend sacrifice. That is its weakness. The chamber erupted with golden light. When it faded, both Sigrid and Tyr were gone. The ascent to Odin's chamber was a gauntlet of perfect horror. Warriors moved in flawless formation, their attacks precise. Gods and giants fought side by side with mechanical synchronization. Even the air seemed to freeze in structured patterns. Kratos fought through it all, each step paid for in fury. The corrupted Thor appeared, lightning now white frost. Brynhildr fell, her final battle cry becoming a whisper of equations. He reached the heart's chamber as the solstice ritual reached its peak. Odin stood transformed, more ice than flesh, the heart beating in time with Yggdrasil's pulse. Look, Odin commanded, gesturing at the realms below. Perfect order comes. No more war. No more grief. No more imperfect choices leading to tragedy. His eye fixed on Kratos. No more dead children. The words struck like spears, but Kratos remembered Sigrid's sacrifice, remembered the village boy's humanity freezing. You offer peace without meaning, Kratos growled. Victory without glory. Life without purpose. I offer protection, Odin replied. And the final battle began. Their battle shattered reality itself. Each of Odin's strikes carried the weight of perfect calculation, while Kratos fought with the fury of chaos incarnate. They crashed through the barriers between realms, through Midgard's freezing forests, Muspelheim's dying fires, Alfheim's crystallizing light. The heart's power grew with each passing moment. Below them, armies fought, their movements becoming one with the spreading order. You deny inevitability. Odin's voice held no anger, only certainty. Every choice you've made led to this moment. Every act of mercy became tragedy. Every love became loss. He pressed his advantage. Ice spears manifesting with perfect precision. Kratos roared, a Leviathan axe blazing against the frost. But with each clash, the heart's influence grew stronger. Ice crept along his arms, promising peace, promising an end to the weight of choice, of guilt, of memory. Then the heart itself spoke. Reality fractured. Kratos found himself in a perfect world. A realm without war or suffering. Saw every possible tragedy prevented by flawless calculation. Saw himself as an architect of perfect order, reshaping reality with precision. Take my power, the heart whispered. You've seen the cost of freedom, of mercy. Take my gift and end suffering forever. The temptation was absolute. Even as part of him fought, another part recognized the logic. How many had died for his choices? How many realms had burned for his freedom to choose vengeance over mercy? But through the vision, memories sparked. Secret sacrifice, the village boy, the price of perfect peace. There is no glory in perfection, Kratos growled. No strength, predestination. His grip tightened on his axe. No wisdom without the freedom to fail. The heart's chamber erupted in battle once more. But now, Kratos fought with something beyond rage or skill. Each imperfect strike carried the weight of choice. Each chaotic movement celebrated the freedom to fail and learn and choose again. Odin's perfect defenses shattered. The old father stumbled, his certainty cracking like ice in a spring. You would doom us to suffering, he gasped, to war, to loss. I would free us to live, Kratos answered, and brought his axe down upon the heart of Ymir. Reality itself screamed. The heart shattered, shards raining across the 9 realms like fallen stars. Each fragment carried away its promise of perfect order, leaving behind the chaotic brilliance of free will. Yggdrasil's branches thawed. The corrupted army stumbled, emotion flooding back into frozen minds. Gods and mortals alike fell to their knees as their humanity returned in a rush of glorious imperfection. Odin collapsed, his eye clearing as the ice left his veins. "What have I done?" he whispered. And for the first time since finding the heart, grief touched his face. "You chose poorly," Kratos answered, "as all must be free to do." He turned away, leaving the Allfather to face the consequences of his perfect logic. Spring came to the 9 realms like an awakening from fever. The ice retreated not just from the land, but from hearts and minds. Gods and mortals alike struggled with returned emotion, with the weight of what they'd done in their quest for perfect order. In the ruins of Odin's fortress, they found survivors. Thor, his lightning once again wild and untamed. Valkyries shaking off the last crystals of frost from their golden armor. Even some of the first transformed, their humanity slowly thawing like rivers in spring. Among the shards of the heart, they discovered 2 intertwined forms, one massive as a giant, one winged like a Valkyrie. Tyr and Sigrid, frozen together in a final embrace. As they watched, the ice melted away, leaving behind 2 figures gasping in the sudden warmth. Sister and brother, restored by sacrifice. Kratos did not wait for gratitude or celebration. He turned away from gods and warriors alike, heading back to his solitary cabin in the wilds. Months passed. Summer bloomed across the realms, chaotic and glorious. In his self-imposed exile, Kratos watched the nearby village rebuild, watched children play, their games beautiful, watched people choose and fail and choose again. One morning, he found tracks in the snow near his cabin. Wolves stalking the village's livestock. In the past, he would have ignored the mortal's plight. Now, he followed the tracks. When he returned at dusk, the wolves would trouble the village no more. A week later, he stopped a bandit raid before it reached the village borders. The week after that, he guided lost hunters home through a storm. Small choices, each one freely made. On the anniversary of the heart's destruction, Sigrid found him watching the village from the forest's edge. Her wings had healed, golden armor gleaming in the sunset. You could be honored among gods, she said. They would welcome the Ghost of Sparta as a hero. Kratos watched a child stumble in the village square, watched her choose to rise again. There is no glory in perfection, he answered. Only in the choice to be better than we are. Sigrid nodded, understanding what was left unsaid. She took wing, leaving him to his solitude. But it was different solitude now. One chosen rather than imposed. One that left room for mercy. In the village below, life continued in all its imperfect glory. And in the shadows of the forest, Kratos stood guard over their right to choose it. The skies above Mount Olympus bled crimson as dawn broke over the immortal realm. 6 months had passed since Kratos, the mortal known as the Ghost of Sparta, had torn Ares limb from limb and claimed divine status. Yet, the heavens themselves seemed reluctant to accept his presence, churning with unease whenever he walked the glided pathways of the gods. In his private chambers, carved from marble, and adorned with the trophies of 1,000 mortal wars, Kratos stood motionless before a reflecting pool. These enchanted waters showed not his reflection, but visions of his past. A village in flames, a temple bathed in innocent blood, a woman and child, their lives extinguished. These nightmares persist. Even in this realm, he growled, his voice like stone grinding against stone. He passed a grey-skinned hand over the water's surface, disrupting the vision, but not the memory. The ash coating his skin, the remains of his family, bound to him by Ares' cruel magic, glowed faintly in the morning light, a stark contrast to the pristine white marble surrounding him. "6 months of ambrosia and nectar had done nothing to cleanse him of his mark. This eternal reminder of what he had been and what part of him would always be. A monster. The blade of Athenia rested against the wall nearby, their curved metal gleaming, their chains momentarily still. Unlike the blades of chaos he had wielded as Ares' servant, these weapons had been gifted by the goddess of wisdom herself. Different in appearance, but still extensions of death's reach. In Kratos' hand, any weapon served the same purpose. Death followed him as relentlessly as his own shadow. Outside his window, the eternal city of the gods spread out in impossible grandeur. Golden spires reached toward a perfect sky. Streets paved with stardust shimmered in the early light. The air itself heavy with divine power. Beauty beyond mortal comprehension. Yet, to Kratos, it felt like another elaborate prison. A distant roll of thunder interrupted his brooding. Zeus, master of lightning, king of the Olympians, expressing his displeasure. The relationship between the Ghost of Sparta and the ruler of the gods remained tense. A constant power struggle barely concealed beneath formal courtesy. Zeus had kept Kratos on a short leash since his ascension, forbidding him from waging open war against Sparta's enemies, constraining his divine power with invisible chains forged from divine law. God of War, Kratos muttered to himself, the title still foreign on his tongue after half a year. god of not yet free. The rumble of approaching footsteps drew him from his thoughts. Hermes, messenger of the gods, appeared at the entrance, his winged sandals barely touching the ground, his movements fluid as quicksilver. "The council awaits, god of war," Hermes announced, with a mocking smile playing across his youthful face. "Try not to keep father waiting. His patience with new additions to our dysfunctional family grows thin with each passing day." Kratos reached for the blades of Athena, feeling their familiar weight as the chains wound around his forearms, the metal cold against his scarred skin. "I am not a part of your family, messenger," he growled. Scars across his ash-white skin, pulsing with remembered rage. "And Zeus would do well to remember why Ares no longer sits among you." Hermes' smile faltered for a moment before returning, more forced than before. Bold words from someone who was mortal mere moments ago, at least by our reckoning. Do not hurry, though. They're discussing Athens, and Athena is already advocating on your behalf. How sisterly of her. The council chamber of Olympus gleamed with concentrated power. 12 ornate thrones arranged in a perfect circle, each occupied by a god or goddess whose very existence shaped the world below. Light from an unseen source cast no shadows, illuminating immortal faces that had watched civilizations rise and fall like waves on a shore. All except one seat, a 13th throne, smaller than the others, positioned slightly outside the circle. Kratos' place, the outsider, the usurper. Zeus sat directly opposite, his beard crackling with suppressed electricity, eyes like storm clouds gathering on the horizon. To his right, Poseidon manipulated spheres of water between long fingers, his attention partially focused on the proceedings. To Zeus's left sat Athena, her calculating gaze fixed on Kratos as he entered, measuring him, as she always did. The mortals of Athens pray for divine intervention against Thracian raids, Athena was saying. As goddess of wisdom and war strategy, I believe a targeted response would demonstrate our favor without unnecessary bloodshed. The Athenians grow soft, Kratos interrupted, his voice echoing through the chamber like a war drum. Let them face this threat and emerge stronger, or fall as they deserve. Sparta would not beg for divine protection against mere raiders. You speak of war as a simple butcher might speak of livestock, Poseidon said. Water droplets freezing into ice shards around his fingers. There is more to divine warfare than spilling blood, mortal. Enough, Zeus commanded, lightning flashing outside the windows. Kratos, you have been god of war for merely half a year. You lack the wisdom to properly direct mankind's conflicts. I earned this position by slaying Ares, Kratos replied, rising. Yet, you treat me as an apprentice rather than an equal. Because you have yet to prove yourself worthy of true divine authority, Zeus declared, rising to tower over the council. Until you understand that power comes with wisdom, you will remain under my guidance. Kratos felt the rage building within him. The familiar red haze threatening to descend over his vision. But even he knew better than to challenge Zeus directly. Not yet. Instead, he turned on his heel and stormed from the chamber, the marble crackling beneath each furious step. The temple of the god of war stood on the outskirts of Olympus, austere and foreboding compared to the golden opulence of the main citadel. Kratos preferred it that way. Here, at last, he could surround himself with the familiar. Weapons lining the walls, tactical maps spread across tables, the scent of iron and leather that reminded him of mortal battlefields. he had barely entered when he sensed a presence. Mortal, but strong. A warrior stood before his altar, head bowed in prayer or supplication. A woman with the bearing of a Spartan commander, her armor bearing the marks of hard travel and recent battle. "Speak, mortal," Kratos commanded. "You dare to disturb the god of war in his sanctuary." The woman turned, and Kratos felt a shock of recognition. Though he knew he had never seen her before. Her features echoed those of a ghost from his past. Strong jaw, determined eyes. "I am Calliope, commander of Sparta's eastern forces." She said, meeting his gaze directly. "Named for a fallen daughter of Sparta, as is our custom for orphan children who shall promise." Kratos stiffened. His daughter's name. This woman before him had been named for his own child, though she could not know this significance. "Rhodes faces annihilation," Calliope continued. "A mysterious army has laid siege to the city, wielding weapons that burn with blue flame that cannot be extinguished. Our allies cry out for Sparta's aid, and Sparta in turn begs the god of war for intervention." "You have approached the wrong deity," Kratos replied coldly. "Athena oversees such matters now." "I have already visited her temple," Calliope said, her expression hardening. "The goddess of wisdom claims this falls under your domain. Yet whispers say Zeus has restricted your authority." Kratos' eyes narrowed, glowing with rage. Athena's game was clear. Sending this problem to him, knowing he had been forbidden to act. Yet, in this trap, he also saw opportunity. "Tell me more of these weapons," he demanded, "and of the army that wields them." ancient walls of roads stood silhouetted against the night sky, parts reduced to smoking rubble. The city was surrounded by warriors bearing no insignia, their armor obsidian black, their weapons wreathed in blue flame that scorched stone and flesh alike. Below, the Rhodian defenders rallied at the eastern gate, attempting to repel another assault. Their bronze shields reflected the eerie blue glow of the enemy's fire, creating a surreal tableau of light and shadow. They've held for 12 days, Calliope said. Each night, the enemy withdraws at midnight precisely, only to return at dawn, with their numbers seemingly unchanged, no matter how many we kill. Kratos narrowed his eyes. No army fights without rest, unless compelled by something beyond mortal will. Drawing the blades of Athenia, he descended toward the battle, moving with inhumane speed. The Rhodian soldiers didn't see him coming until he was among them. A pale spectre of death whose blades left golden trails in the night air. Kratos tore through the enemy ranks, his movements a deadly dance perfected through decades of combat and enhanced by divine power. One of the black armored warriors lunged at him, blue fire trailing from his blade. Kratos caught the weapon between his palms, feeling its unnatural heat. This was no ordinary flame. It carried divine energy, reminiscent of Ares' power, yet different. Colder, more precise. Who sent you? Kratos demanded, lifting the soldier by the throat. What god do you serve? She comes with the dark fire, the soldier whispered, his eyes glowing with the same blue flame as the weapon. The forgotten goddess returns to claim what was denied her. Before Kratos could extract more information, the soldier's body crumbled. Flesh and armor dissolving into blue embers that scattered in the wind. all around him, the remaining enemy forces withdrew in perfect unison, retreating into the darkness beyond the city's light. Dawn found Kratos examining a fragment of armor bearing an ancient symbol. A spear crossed with a flame, surrounded by a broken circle. Something tugged at his memory. Knowledge inherited from Ares when he took the god's power. Following the symbols led them beneath roads, through forgotten catacombs, to a sealed temple. Inside lay murals depicting scenes of destruction, presided over by a woman warrior whose armor mirrored Ares' own. Her weapons, trailing blue flame. Enyo, Kratos read from the inscription. Twin sister of Ares, born on the same night, nursed on the same blood. I know of no goddess by this name, Calliope said, examining the murals with growing concern. Because Zeus erased her from worship and memory, Kratos replied. Ares and Enyo plotted against Zeus in an earlier age. When discovered, Ares betrayed his sister, claiming she had corrupted him. Zeus imprisoned Enyo with a celestial bronze urn, while merely punishing Ares with temporary banishment. At the temple's center stood an altar bearing shattered bronze fragments, the remnants of that prison. While Ares specialized in chaotic slaughter, Enyo mastered weaponizing divine fire. Kratos continued, touching one of the shards. It was ice cold, despite its appearance. She could bestow it upon mortals to use against their enemies, or against the gods themselves. And now she's free. But why? After all this time? Because I killed her twin, Kratos said grimly. With Ares dead, and his killer now holding his divine mantle, the balance was disrupted. She has awakened seeking vengeance drawn to the power vacuum. Kratos strode through Olympus toward Athena's chambers, gods scattering before his fury. He found the goddess of wisdom, studying a map of the mortal world. Markers indicating conflicts across the known lands. You knew, Kratos growled. You sent me to Rhodes knowing what I would find. Of course I knew, as did Zeus and the others, Athena replied without looking up. The escape of a forgotten goddess could hardly go unnoticed by those who imprisoned her. Yet, you said nothing. You deliberately kept me ignorant. A fleeting impression, guilt, pity, crossed Athena's face. It wasn't my decision alone. Council voted. Zeus saw opportunity in Enyo's return. The implications struck Kratos like a physical blow. I am bait, he realized aloud. Zeus's plans to use Enyo's vendetta against me as an opportunity to eliminate both threats to his power simultaneously. Athena didn't deny it. My father fears you, Kratos, as he feared Ares. The position of god of war has always been problematic for Zeus. Too much potential for usurpation. Kratos felt the familiar rage building within him. But beneath it, something deeper. Bitter understanding. The gods had never intended to accept him. He had merely traded one manipulator for many. And just before he could respond, a messenger burst in. My lord, Sparta burns. The same army that attacked Rhodes has struck our homeland, wielding blue fire that consumes everything. Defying Zeus's command to remain on Olympus, Kratos raced to Sparta. From the hill overlooking his homeland, a sight nearly brought him to his knees. Half the city lay in ruins, blue flames dancing across collapsed buildings. In the streets, Spartans fought not only the black armored soldiers, but also their own people. Warriors whose eyes glowed with that same unnatural blue fire, turned against their families. Fighting his way through the chaos, he found Calliope leading a desperate defense. They came without warning, she told him, as they fought back to back against the onslaught. Our own soldiers began turning against us, as if possessed. They are possessed, Kratos confirmed. Enyo's fire doesn't just burn the body, it corrupts the spirit, turning warriors into her puppets. A woman of unearthly beauty materialized before them, her features constantly shifting between youthful innocence and ancient malice. Ghost of Sparta, she purred. I am Eris, goddess of discord and daughter of Enyo. My mother sends her regards and a message. Speak quickly before I send you back to your mother in pieces, Kratos growled. My mother doesn't seek your death. Not yet. She seeks what Zeus has hidden on Earth. The flame of Olympus, Eris explained. To harness it, she requires 3 ancient artifacts. The Spear of Conflict, the Shield of Devastation, and the Helm of Terror. The spear has already been recovered from beneath Troy. The others await. Why tell me this? Kratos demanded. Because my mother enjoys games, Eris smiled, teeth like polished daggers. She wants you to try to stop her, to give her vengeance meaning. The labyrinth of Crete reshaped itself as Kratos traveled. Walls sliding closed behind him, new passages opening ahead. Intelligence from captured soldiers had led him here, where the Shield of Devastation was hidden. A scraping sound echoed through the corridors. Something massive dragging itself closer, A grotesque amalgamation of human bodies rounded the corner. Multiple heads merged into one misshapen skull, its eyes burning with blue flame. The battle led deeper into the maze, through ancient traps still functioning after centuries. They burst into a central chamber, where, suspended above churning water, hung the shield of devastation. A massive bronze shield etched with scenes of cities falling and armies being annihilated. And before it stood Scylla, the legendary sea monster, now corrupted by Enyo's blue flame, its tentacles writhing with unnatural energy. The battle tested even Kratos' godly strength. Water and blue fire filled the chamber as Scylla unleashed torrents of burning liquid that seared even Kratos' resistant flesh. Drawing on his divine power, still limited by Zeus's restrictions, but growing stronger through conflict, Kratos finally drove his blades deep into Scylla's central mass, using its tentacles to ensnare the shape-shifting creature and drag both into the churning pit below. With the chamber silent, Kratos claimed the shield of devastation. Unlike typical shields, it felt impossibly light until he focused his will upon it. Then, it solidified, becoming an impenetrable barrier that could expand to protect, or contract to a bracelet at its wielder's command. Returning to Sparta, Kratos learned the Helm of Terror was buried beneath the original Spartan training grounds. As they approached the ancient temple that now served as Kratos' sacred space, blue flames intensified, forming a barrier of azure fire. Beyond it stood Enyo, wearing armor identical to what Ares had worn, but glowing with cold blue precision rather than red fury. Her features mirrored her twin brothers, cruel, sharp, beautiful in their perfect symmetry. The Ghost of Sparta himself, she said. My brother's murderer. His usurper. His replacement. Your brother brought his fate upon himself, Kratos replied, readying both blades and shields. As you will bring yours. You think yourself so different, Enya laughed. You carry his curse now, god of war. To be feared and hated even by those who try to protect you. To insult bloodlust rather than loyalty. To be Zeus's attack dog. Kept on a short leash until he decides to put you down. Her words struck uncomfortably close to the doubts that had plagued Kratos since his ascension. She saw his momentary hesitation and pressed her advantage. I offer you freedom, Ghost of Sparta. Join me. Together we can overthrow Zeus and the Olympians. I will take my rightful place, and you can be released from this burden of godhood. Return to being what you truly are. A warrior, not a pawn in divine politics. The temptation pulled at something deep within Kratos. To be free of Zeus's constraints, the weight of divinity he had never truly wanted. He is not what you were, witch. Calliope's voice cut through the moment. She stepped forward, her wounded arm hanging at her side, but her spine straight with Spartan pride. Sparta feared Ares, but we respect Kratos. He understands what you and your brother never did. That true warfare requires honor and purpose, not merely destruction. He knows the value of what he fights for, 'cause he was once one of us. Enyo's face contorted with rage. With a casual gesture, she sent a bolt of blue flame toward Calliope. Then join the mortals you so admire, god of war. In death. The flame engulfed Calliope before Kratos could intervene. He watched as her body was consumed, turned to ash in an instant. The cycle of loss repeating endlessly. But as Calliope's remains scattered in the wind, something changed in Kratos. The rage that had defied him for so long crystallized into something different. Purpose. Not vengeance, but protection. Responsibility. For the first time, he fully embraced his role as god of war, not as a burden or title, but as a duty to guide warfare with honor, rather than merely unleashing destruction. In that moment of clarity, Zeus's constraints fell away. Not because the king of gods released him, but because Kratos finally understood how to transcend them through wisdom rather than defiance. Divine energy surged through him, his skin glowing not with rage but with newfound power. The blade of Athenia ignited with golden flame that matched the fire in his eyes. "You are a relic, Ennio," he declared. "A forgotten goddess who belongs in the past, just as Ares did. War has evolved beyond your understanding." The battle between the twin war deities shook the foundations of Sparta. Where Ennio wielded the cold precision of strategic devastation, Kratos countered with the disciplined power of honorable combat. Her blue flames met his golden fire as they tore across the landscape. The clash visible for miles in every direction. Using strategy rather than mere brutality, showing his evolution beyond Ares' methods, Kratos ultimately overpowered Ennio. He drove his blades into the ground to channel divine energy through the earth itself, immobilizing her with golden chains of divine energy that erupted from beneath. "This is not over," she hissed, as the chains dragged her down. "Zeus will betray you as he betrayed Ares, as he betrayed me." A blinding light filled the battlefield. When it faded, Zeus stood before them with Athenia and several other Olympians. His expression was thunderous, lightning crackling around his form. "You have defied my direct command, Kratos," Zeus declared, his voice causing the air to vibrate. You were forbidden from waging war without my consent. I protected Sparta from a threat you concealed from me, Kratos replied, standing his ground. A threat you plan to use against me. For a moment, tension filled the air. The other gods watched warily, perhaps expecting Kratos to attack Zeus as Ares once had. It would be the perfect fulfillment of their expectations. The cycle of betrayal continuing as it always had. Instead, Kratos did something unprecedented. He knelt, keeping one knee raised in the Spartan tradition. Sign of respect, but maintained dignity rather than submission. Enyo is defeated by my hand, but I offer her fate to your judgment, King of the Gods, he said, choosing his words with care. In return, I ask only that Sparta be rebuilt with Olympian aid, that I be recognized as a full god, with all the rights and responsibilities thereof. Zeus considered this, ancient eyes unreadable, and at last he gave a curt nod. Sparta will be rebuilt, and you, Kratos, will be acknowledged as true god of war. His eyes hardened. But remember this moment well. I have shown mercy once. There will not be a second time. With a gesture, Zeus bound the already immobilized Enyo. The Olympians departed with their prisoner, leaving only Athena behind. You surprised him, she said quietly. And me as well. Perhaps there is hope for you yet, brother. In the days that followed, Olympian magic helped rebuild Sparta. The blue flames of Enyo's corruption were purged from the land. The surviving Spartans set about restoring their way of life. Kratos oversaw it all from the hill where he had once trained as a boy. As twilight descended, watching his people reconstruct their lives, he felt something he hadn't experienced since before closing his deal with Ares. purpose, the faintest glimmer of peace. But as night fell, the tranquility shattered. In his mind's eye, Kratos saw Zeus watching him with suspicious eyes. The other gods plotting against him. He remembered Enyo's warning that Zeus would betray him as he had betrayed Ares. His hand moved to the blade of Athena, his momentary peace fading as thoughts of future vengeance returned. He had found his place as god of war. But the greater conflict with Olympus seemed inevitable. A looming war written in fate, as surely as his ashen skin marked him forever as the Ghost of Sparta. The cycle always repeats, he murmured to the uncaring stars. But next time, I will be ready. And in the distance, thunder rolled across cloudless skies. Zeus, ever watching, ever wary. The game between them had merely entered a new phase, and Kratos, for perhaps the very first time, understood all the pieces on the board.